let her know after this. But she does come from, sorry, I think your last place is here.
Yeah, I live in San Diego.
Okay, her last place is, her current place still is San Diego, so she probably knows a lot of good wineries down in California, pretty close, fairly close. But tell her about ours, tell her about the Fruit Loop. Those are the exciting things around here. We're in the middle of a heat wave. Tammy.
Yes, you are. I
know.
left 95-degree weather and arrived in 95-degree weather, and I was telling everybody, I'm going to Oregon. I hope it rains every day. I hope it's 60 degrees. No.
Tammy brought the sun with her. I don't want to take up any more time, but we do have this place until 1 o'clock. I know a lot of you may have thought that at 12 o'clock you're going to grab your lunch and get out of here. It's okay if you have to do that. We totally get it. And thank you again for coming. I'm going to pass the show over here to Tammy.
Thank you. Thank you. And again, I apologize for being late. I pride myself in never being late for appointments. And apparently, I'm either 20 minutes early according to my schedule or 40 minutes late. Being handed out is actually some resources I brought for you as well. So just a little bit of background on me. I was the former purchasing director agent for the city of San Diego. It's the 9th largest city in the nation, covers 220 square miles. And we have a pretty vast network of what we manage with the city. We have 2 airports, major golf courses, of course, parks, police, fire. We also run waste management. A lot of cities and counties outsource that. We have our own garbage collection service as well. So we do it all. We have a water treatment system, a sewer treatment system. A lot of cities and counties don't do that. So pretty much anything you could buy, I bought during my 5 years as purchasing agent. But prior to being purchasing agent, I spent 17 years as a city employee working in different departments. So I was very much from the operational side of things. And when I joined purchasing, it was not my choice. I was told I was going to be purchasing agent. The former purchasing agent, along with 8 other city managers, was being fired. And they needed a new purchasing agent. So I got a call on a Sunday night and was told I was going to be purchasing. And I don't want to be purchasing. I hate purchasing. Everybody hates purchasing. But that's how I got to be purchasing agent. So I came at it from an operational side, never knowing purchasing. I didn't grow up in purchasing. That's not where my degree was from. But I came to appreciate what procurement has to deal with on a day-to-day basis. And frankly, I tell people now, it was my hardest, best job in my government job. So 24 years with the city, I feel like I've seen it all, done it all. I can just start wearing short sleeves. The scars no longer show from my tenure. So what I want to talk about is the exciting concept of contract management. And when we talk contract management, people just glaze over, yeah. Because all they get excited about is getting the stuff, the new stuff that's coming in, the new vehicles, the new furniture, the new computers. Everybody wants their stuff. But over time, over the next 3 to 5 years, when that contract is still in place, people get sort of lackadaisical on the contract part. And it's actually the most important part of the whole contract. So how does this little thing go? I don't know how your Logitech works here. There we go. Got it. So on the lifespan of a contract, you've got your 3 parts. The first part is what we get trained on. In purchasing, that's what you get your certifications for. We know our RFP processes. We know how to handle a protest. We know how to award the contract. We're good at negotiation. So we spend a lot of time on that part. This part is in the operational needs with the department, asking them questions, trying to figure out what they want. Sometimes they know specifically what they want, and we have to tell them, wait a minute, we need to open this up to competition. You can't just go pick the one thing. This last part is what we're talking about in contract management. And frankly, that's where the value is. You spent all that time writing great specs, great scope of work. You put it out on the street, and you tried to get as many vendors. Then you go through the process of the evaluation. Then there may be a protest, and you may have to uphold your selection. Now you may have to go before your city council or board to get approval. You've done all of that. Then you've handed this contract off to a customer department, or you may be managing it along with 20 other contracts. That's where the true value happens over the next 3 to 5 years, because if nobody's managing that contract properly, that's where things go wrong. Here's a case in point in Minnesota. In this case, purchasing had gotten a contract together for police vehicles. And in the police vehicles, when you purchase them, it comes with everything. It comes with the lights, the decals, the cages, the dog handling stuff. Everything should be all inclusive. But in this case, what the dealer was doing was, yeah, they were selling them the car, but then they were doing add-on pricing for all that other stuff. And the police department was accepting it, okaying the invoice, and the invoices were being paid. Invoices up to $380,000 over the course of 3 years. People ended up getting sued, going to jail, money was paid back, all this kind of things. But this is because no one actually checked the contract with the invoice to say, hey, wait a minute, we're not supposed to be getting charged extra for this stuff. That's the importance of contract management. This little thing is driving me crazy. There we go. In a contract management, many in procurement have been trained in this. However, customer departments, those in departments who are actually serving as a contract manager, not normally trained. So, have you told them these are the rules of the game? When you've handed them their contract, have you explained any of this to them? They are the liaison between the vendor and procurement. They are the agency's representative. If there's a problem or an issue, they're supposed to be documenting this all along the way. They're supposed to be maintaining a file. Insurance. You know that insurance certificate you get at the beginning of a contract? Do they know that's supposed to be updated 5 times? Insurance? I thought you got insurance on the first year. Yeah, we did, and it's supposed to be renewed annually. So there should be 5 insurance forms in there or in the system or however you file it. But a lot of times, we don't take the time to train them, or we've trained one person, but now they've retired, and they haven't trained the person who's picking up their workload. Oops. Thou shall not. We're very good at these, black and white. So the thou shall not, you would think these would be simple. The first one, you shouldn't allow the contractor to start work before the contract's been signed and the PO's been issued. How many of you have had contractors come to you and want to be paid, and you're like, who are you? I have been working on this. I had that instance, Balboa Park in San Diego. If any of you have ever been to San Diego, it's one of our beautiful showcase places in San Diego with museums. It's 660 acres. Well, in this particular case, a young park ranger wanted to be all that, and he hired a tree trimming company. And the tree trimming company came in and for 3 months trimmed trees in Balboa Park. Now, I know you guys know trees, and you know cutting down trees in Oregon, but the trees we have that are kind of special in San Diego, eucalyptus trees. They grow very tall, very fast. They're not indigenous to San Diego, but they were brought in. They're Australian trees. And when they grow, they spiral. So when you cut them, they snap and splinter everywhere. In fact, they're very weak in high winds. So they're not like the oaks and the pines that you cut here. They're just very, they need special training to know how to cut them. Well, in Balboa Park, that's the main tree. These are the trees that they were trimming for 3 months, around children's playgrounds, around tourists and sidewalks. How did Tammy, the purchasing agent, find out about this? I got a call from the tree trimming company. We can't get paid. We've been done for 2 months, and why aren't we being paid? Well, hold on just a second. I don't know every contract in the city, so let me look you up. I don't see you in our system. Who are you again? So now I have to call. Oh yeah, they already finished the work. We owe them $300,000. Where's the contract? Who gave permission to do this? So another one, can you sign a contract unless you're authorized? Well, this little park ranger thought he was authorized. Well, I had to, as you know, we're now in fix-it mode. The work is done. The vendor needs to be paid. So I'm having to backtrack and get a contract together, not backdate, but backtrack and cover everything. Then I'm thinking insurance. I hope they have insurance. Please have insurance. Please have insurance. Do you have insurance? Yes, they have insurance. Yes. All right, check that box and get the certificate. And that's how I paid them $300,000. Chastise the young park ranger. Don't ever do this again. But we in procurement know these thou shall nots. But unfortunately, the departments and other contract managers do not. So I know we spend a lot of time on specifications, and I get that. When you're buying something for your fleet director, you really need to go through all the specifications. I'm not going to talk about that today because that's so specific to whatever you're buying, whether it's turnout codes for your firefighters, whether it's vehicles, heavy equipment, whatever that may be. This is what I want to talk about, is the scope of work, because this is just as important, and this is where we get in trouble a lot of times. So it must be as detailed as possible, and we sometimes don't detail the scope as much as we do the specifications, and we need to, because your interpretation of something could be totally different than your interpretation and different from your interpretation. So if you tell your teenager, I want you to clean your room in a timely manner, you as a parent have an idea of what clean is and what timely is. Your teenager has a whole other perspective on what that means. You must anticipate the unknown, and this is tough because you have to figure out how people could possibly muck this up. And boy, howdy, they can muck it up in ways you can't even imagine. In fact, you'll sit there and think, how could they have gone that path? No reasonable person would have gone down that path, and yet they do. And then finally, it's got to be easy to follow, easy to read, easy to understand, and most importantly, easy to defend. Because in the end, if this ends up in a lawsuit, you need to be able to explain this to people who are outside the contract process and have them come to the same conclusions. So let me give you a real example. This is actually from a big city. In their scope, the contractor is required to remove the demolition debris on a weekly basis. Working hours are from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Contractors shall communicate with the contract manager regarding project schedule and budget. So looking at that scope, could you see how someone might misinterpret? Can you see something that's kind of a little loose and we maybe should tighten it down? So I want you to look to your partner, left and right. Whoever looks smarter, that's who you're going to talk to. Does anybody need to get up and move? All right, those on the end, you're lucky. You just turn to the other person. Of course you're smarter than the blank spot. Of course you are. All right, pick one thing. Tell me one thing between you and your partner. I'm only going to give you 30 seconds. Go. You should be able to pick this apart. Give me a weak spot. Go. All righty, that's your 30 seconds. You guys are on this. You jumped in. We're at a fire station. You guys are ready to go. Let's go. All right, give me something. Give me something. What's weak here? Something in the front row.
Working hours, there's no day.
Working, it says daily. Is that Monday through Friday? What day is that? 7 days a week? What is 8 a.m. to 5 p.m.? In the back, very back, somebody in the back.
Why would you remove the trees when you got after them?
Okay, she's saying, why are you doing it? You got trucks coming in, trucks going out. You've got some confusion here. This happens to be near a downtown area. So that could be really impact traffic in the morning, and everybody's going to call the mayor if they're delayed getting to work. Second row, give me something.
How are you removing the debris?
How are you removing the debris? Where's it going? This is Southern California. Are they dumping it in a canyon somewhere? I mean, it could happen. It has happened. Or are they, what about if you've got your metals, you've got your cement, you've got your, trash? Is that being broken up on how you're going to recycle? Is any part of that going to be recycled? Anything like that? What if they come and make deliveries and working hours are 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., but they show up at 4:45, that's within working hours, but it takes at least an hour to offload the stuff. So maybe the hours are either shorter, or you say trucks must be off the property no later than 5:15. You could tighten it up as well. The last one, anybody pick on that one? Community, yes ma'am, back there. How often does it happen? And yes, up here, Mr. Blue Shirt.
Yeah, I was going to say, what exactly are we communicating?
What are we communicating and how? If I send you a text, good morning, is that a communication? Well, yeah, it is. Hey, how you doing? Just letting you know we're here. Hey, and we're within budget today. That's not real communication. How do you want it to happen? So this is always in our mind as purchasing people. Whenever I have anybody proposing anything, anybody talking, I've got a vendor giving me a presentation, I have one of my staff members in front of me. Here's what I'm thinking. What could go wrong? Always. It's like your teenagers. What could go wrong? And we can think of a million ways of things which could go wrong. What could be misunderstood? And that's why things have to be nailed down so tightly. How could this be perceived, public perception? So I am sitting at lunch with my good friend, who we've been friends for years. And they have their polo shirt where they work, Grainger. What if I'm sitting having lunch with Grainger? My friend, not Grainger, but my friend, but I'm purchasing agent of the city of San Diego. Fastenal's sitting over there. They're wondering, hey, what kind of deal does Grainger have that they get to meet for lunch with the purchasing agent? I thought she didn't meet with vendors. Well, I'm not meeting with vendors. I'm meeting with my friend, but it's public perception on everything. And then what is our liability? And you have to think that. As purchasing agent, I was called into court twice. I actually was in front of a jury, had to raise my right hand, put my hand on the Bible. I've lost track of all the depositions and all the lawsuits. And in none of those cases did we do anything wrong. There was nothing we blatantly did wrong. However, anybody can sue for just about anything today. So you have to be ready to defend it. So 3 parts of contract management. The first part is administrative. It's the paperwork, making sure the files are in place, making sure you've got your insurance, making sure if there's any prevailing wage, living wage, anything like that that's being adhered to. And then, of course, the annual renewal notices and how those are processed. So the first step, administrative. Second is fiscal. When we get the stuff, are we paying what we said we were going to pay in the contract? Is anybody matching that stuff up over time, or at least in some type of periodic audit? Or is there bundling happening? So for instance, I'm going out to order office supplies and I want 10 rolls of tape, just regular old Scotch tape. But the packages come in 12. So is the vendor just throwing the whole box of 12 in there? Oh, you'll eventually use the 2 extra ones. Or am I just getting my 10 tapes? And the 10 tapes I'm getting, am I getting the ones I ordered, the generic ones, or am I getting the 3M more expensive? And the price I'm paying, am I paying what I contracted? All of that is part of monitoring a contract. Now, do you do that every single invoice every single time? Probably not. There's no way I could have, nor did I. But once in a while, you need to. Are the apportioned costs going across all the appropriate departments? So police is ordering stuff, but it's getting charged to fire. For years, it's getting charged to fire. Is anybody, I'm sure police is happy with that, but fire's not going to be happy. And then how do they get the money back once it's found out 3 years later? And then are there rebates? And where are they going? How are they paid? Are they paid quarterly, annually? Does the check get cut to purchasing, or does it go to the general fund? I know where it goes. It goes to the general fund. But if you could get even a portion of it, why wouldn't you try for that? And then, whoop, I went way too fast on this thing. How do I go back? Just jump. Okay, I'm waiting. How do I go back to where I was? Sorry, for my vacation, I didn't bring my computer or any of my stuff. It was the only way for me to stay focused. Thank you. There we go. Area 3. Now the actual delivery of the services. How are they delivered? Are they timely? Are they the way they should have been done? Is the person who's delivering them, are they customer service friendly? If you're on an online system, is that working properly for all of your staff, and are you getting the reports? Are you doing any kind of customer surveys over time? If it's like a citywide, countywide, organizational-wide contract, are you going out and asking people, hey, how's this going for you? We thought we had all your needs in mind when we put this in place, but are we really capturing what you need? Are you getting feedback on that as well? And then meeting with the vendor. Let me ask you this. When you're meeting with a vendor, who's in control of that meeting? All right, let me repeat. When you are meeting with a vendor, who is in control of that meeting? We are. One more time. When we are meeting with a vendor, who is in control of that meeting? We are. You damn right we are. And if I say I have to cuss to get you up, yes, I will. Because I want you to be in charge of that meeting. It's not their meeting, it's your meeting. You're the big dog. You're the one with the money. You're paying them for a service. They're not your servant, but they are there to serve you. So you need to make sure you're getting the service that you contracted for. That meeting, you pick the site. It can be in your office. It's not their choice where it is. It's your choice. You're in charge of the meeting. But you may want to go off-site because say it's at a park and rec facility and you want to meet and walk the site and walk through some things and talk about it. But still, that's your choice. You're meeting at that location based on your choice. When you come to the meeting, I want you to bring copies of the contract with the scope of work and with the specs. Because the person from the company who might have negotiated that contract might not be the same person who's going to work with you on a day-to-day basis. And a lot of times that contract doesn't get passed down to that person. So bring it. Both of you should go through the scope of work so that you all are of the same understanding of how this is going to work. They can bring their vice president, their president, but you want the person there who you're going to work with or your people are going to work with on a daily basis. It is professional and firm. We are there to make sure that the vendor suppliers are treated fairly by our organization, but we're also there to make sure that our organization is served by the supplier as well. So meetings are very important. How many of you regularly meet with vendors? Not sales presentations. I'm not talking about that. I'm just vendors. Okay. Not every hand went up and every hand should, because there are some multi-million-dollar contracts you have going through your organization. And if you're never meeting with that vendor, talking to them, how do you know everything's going okay? Regular meetings with more riskier, more high dollar volume contractors is a must. And you need to have some kind of documentation. I call it a vendor performance form or report. You can call yours whatever you want. But within that report, you need to make sure that you're documenting any meeting, any conversation, any complaints, any good stuff, not just the bad stuff. And it can be very simple. It can be half a page, 1 page. It can be something on the computer. You want the time, the date, and the details, because that's the first question a lawyer will ask for. What date was it? What time was it? What was the conversation? There you go. Who did you talk to? Write their full name. It wasn't Jessica. It's Jessica something. You need the last name. Don't just send a form. Accompany it with a conversation. Millennials, accompany it with a conversation. We need to talk. A lot of times things can get resolved quickly if you just have a conversation. A text isn't going to do it. Okay, I'm going to digress for a second. Why when I text my millennial daughter, she answers right away? But when I call her, she won't answer, but she'll text me. So that means her phone is in her hand. Right? She tells me, Mom, I don't have time for a whole conversation. And I'm like, I gave you life, and I want to hear your voice. I can't hear the tone if I don't hear your voice. Anyway, sorry. And then a deadline to rectify the situation if it's a problem. Give them a deadline. ASAP is not a deadline. Give them a specific deadline, because your ASAP is different from yours. So I had a young buyer from a water district call me, and I'd been working with them, and he said, Tammy, we have a problem with the janitorial crew who comes into our main administrative offices at night. Their cleaning hours are 8 to midnight, and they're coming in, and the cleaning is fine. However, they're forgetting to lock the back door and forgetting to set the alarm. He says, how much time should I give them to rectify the situation? Tonight they rectify. And if this was my contract, even though it's offsite and off hours, I would show up. I would show up around 9 or 10 p.m. just to see what's going on, because if they're being a little sloppy about the not locking the door, there may be some other things going on, but I definitely want to make sure that's taken care of. So it's your decision as to when. Now, you need to give some reasonableness. I mean, if it's a major delivery coming and they need to get trucks and stuff, obviously you're gonna do that. But you need to give them a deadline. And then where are you filing this? So is it just in a file cabinet in your office? Does anybody else know where that is? Say you win the lottery and you just take off. You don't even come in, you just take off. And whoever's left has got to take over all your stuff and all your files. Do they know where all this stuff, particularly if there's been some problems that you've been documenting, can they find it? If you have an online system, is it where everybody can get to it, or do you have your own little drive and nobody has the password? That's what you have to think, because these aren't your files, these are your organization's files. And so can anybody who needs to get to them, get to them? Let me give you an example. You and your partner, this is a true story. This is something I dealt with at the city of San Diego. So it's a water agency, or it's a water treatment plant. And in this case, the chemicals must be delivered weekly to the plant between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. We just changed contracts to a new chemical company. And while they're using the chemicals to clean up the water to make it potable, they're noticing, the plant operators, that the water quality levels have dropped just a bit. They're still within drinking potable standards, but they've altered a bit, and they're kind of watching it. They're a little bit concerned because it's brand new chemicals and they want to make sure this doesn't go south. The delivery trucks often pull up between 4:30 and 5, which requires city employees to work overtime to supervise the unloading, which generally takes an hour. So you and your partner pick apart 2 or 3 things that we can have a meeting with this contractor to discuss. What are we going to bring to the meeting? Where are we going to hold the meeting? All of that stuff. You got 1 minute. Go. Otherwise, I can be around the room. Well, it worked out. I apologize. No problem. All righty, I'm sorry. Usually I walk the room, but I'm being recorded, so I've been told I have to stay in a box. I feel like a caged tiger going back and forth, right to the edges. All right, so let me give you row 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Give me something from row 4. It's math. 1, 2, 3, 4. Somebody on the 4th row. You see yourself. Come on. Lovely lady with the red blouse, the black jacket, and the beautiful smile. Give me something.
We talked about how we should not be delivering it because the truck should be there no later than 4.
Okay, so you're gonna end during the meeting. Okay, good. So let me back up. Who's in control of this meeting?
Yeah.
We are. Much better. We are. Where are we gonna hold this meeting? At the site. I agree. I would probably go to the site. Ain't gonna invite anybody else besides procurement? The plant operators, they're the ones, yeah, or even the facilities folks who are with the unloading. I'd definitely have them at the meeting so that everybody can talk about the solutions and the problems. So anything else you're gonna bring to the meeting with you? The contract, yes, the front row is listening. You wanna bring copies of the contract, not just for yourself. You want everybody at the table, because some of them may never have seen this contract. This is what we had a contract? I didn't know this was our scope of work. You want everyone to be able to see it and have a copy. Bring the contract. Anybody going to bring reports of the lab on the water? I would too, because the numbers will tell the story. You're not talking theoretically. Here's what the numbers were before with the old chemical company. Here's what they are with the new one. All right. Back row, purple shirt. What are you going to do? Anything else you're going to pick apart?
We decided Monday through Thursday,
Okay.
delivery hours 4 to 3:30. No delivery during lunchtime. We want a weekly meeting. So we're gonna set up a standing meeting.
Good.
The numbers go out correctly.
Perfect, perfect. And I agree, because we're talking about water quality. We're not talking about a sidewalk not getting swept. We're talking about water quality. We don't want Flint, Michigan happening in our watch, right? So it's not that they're bad, but you know, if the media gets even a sniff of this, water quality stinks, move out of the city. I mean, that's the headlines when, hey, it's still potable, it's still drinking water. Anybody going to be calling the other chemical company just in case? Or are we there yet for some of you? We're not there for me either. If after that meeting, and then maybe after the subsequent meeting, things aren't going the way we hope, I think I'm on the phone with the other chemical company. And it may be a sole source. I don't care if it's $1 million until we figure this out. So yes, anybody come up with anything else creative? Yes, ma'am, in the back, and then you.
We wondered if because they're unloading the chemicals so late, they're sitting on the dock and degrading them.
Oh, nobody's ever said that. Oregon people are so smart. Yes, must be the cannabis on every corner. That's it. Yes, nobody said that before. That's awesome. Yes, ma'am. Oh, of course, that's exactly what you said. Of course, because it's brilliant. It's brilliant. Yes, sir.
I'm inviting other people to make sure they read the contract
Yes.
and they understand what.
Yes, thank you. You've strategized before the meeting, because if you start pulling in a bunch of players, you kind of have your game plan, how you think this meeting's going to go. But if you ever gone into a meeting and it's just got all mucked up because everybody's on a different road, it might make sense that you have a pre-meeting before the meeting with the vendor, so at least the agency is all on the same page and we kind of have our action items. Good point. All right. So I have some scopes taken right out. These are one-line statements out of actual government scopes of work. Security staff must be professional and appropriately attired. That's right out of a scope of work. We all have that. So let me ask you, if they show up in flip-flops and a Speedo, now they're the lawn person and they're trying to work on their tan. So while they're mowing, they're going to wear the Speedo and flip-flops. We didn't say, they think that's professional because they have their company emblem right there. What's the problem? So maybe shirt and shoes, maybe has to have company, you know, they may be professionally attired, but maybe we want to have identifying name tags, something on them. Delivery shall be made during working hours to the police station. When are working hours of a police station? 24 hours. So really, 3 o'clock, you want a white panel truck to pull up to the police station? That might make the cops a little nervous. So maybe we have regular delivery hours. Vendor must be able to respond within 24 hours. A lot of us have that in our contracts. Yeah, of what? Within 24 hours of my call to you? And how do they respond? Can they text you? At the 23rd hour, 59 minute, hey, got your message, I'm on vacation. Well, they responded. But what do you want it actually resolved? Do you want a plan? What do you want? Reports will be provided at the end of the month. Is that on the last day of the month? Is that, can they possibly do the reports on the last day? Some people have to do a report like within 5 days after the last of the month because they have to compile the numbers. How are you getting that report? Is this a spreadsheet? When you look at the report, is that actually what you want, or is that just what they provide? You need them to augment the report. And then supplier will bring forward any issues in a timely manner. Related to the contract issues or just any old issues? I'm having problems getting a babysitter on Friday night. That's an issue for me. And then timely mannered, or if they're at a park and they're responsible for going out and cleaning the restrooms. So if they see something happening, whether it's illegal or, you know, law enforcement might be called, do you want them to be an extra set of eyes for you out in that park? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But if you do, make sure it's in the contract that if they see an incident, they shall call 911. And then they'll call you afterward just to report that they reported an incident. Whoa. So let's get into cooperative contracting. Let's go back because I keep touching this thing and it goes crazy. All right, Annie, help me out here. Somebody. What am I doing? Oh, so if I go forward, okay, I got it. Okay. All right. Sorry, I wasn't trained before I got up here. There we go. All right. All right, cooperative contracting, and that's what you have. Because I hear this group is kind of interested in that topic, and so am I. I actually work with an organization, the National Cooperative Procurement Partners. It's a brand new association, just a little over 2 years old. And the idea is kind of like NIGP or your local regional chapter here for procurement. Well, in this wild west of cooperatives over the past decade, they have now decided that we also need an association to represent our interests legislatively, but also to provide educational materials that are sort of non-denominational. Because in the past, here's 2 ways that cooperative procurement was trained on. Either a co-op themselves would show up and provide the training, and that's all well and good. However, a lot of times that merry path you take goes right to their co-op, and that's okay because they're into marketing and sales. Or on the converse side, you'd have procurement folks do the training, and a lot of times they had their preferences or they had just their philosophy of ways of using a co-op, and that was the way everyone was trained. The idea behind this association is let's open it up, let's consider all perspectives, all ways of going down this merry road called cooperatives. So anybody out here have never used a cooperative? Your agency doesn't allow it. All right, I have got the choir in front of me and I'm singing to you, great. So I'm gonna go quickly through these, but these are reasons you may want to share with others, like a new city attorney or a new manager or someone who's not in-depth educated on co-ops. So percentage of co-ops over the last decade. A survey was done by Envia in 2017, where they went out to 668 procurement folks from cities, counties, universities, school districts from across the nation. And here's what they found. The use in co-ops are growing exponentially. And the breakdown is this. I'm gonna start at the top. Those with 0. That's why I asked the question, does anybody here not use a co-op? Because there's still agencies out there that don't. Mostly because of legislative reasons, and mostly in certain areas of the country. So, for instance, in the Northeast, they have a lot of, I'll just say, sort of antiquated procurement laws, where they either have to go with the state, what the state tells them they can or cannot do, or cooperative procurement is not even allowed. They're not allowed to do it. It's just the way of land. When you come out west, I'm from California, you're in Oregon, it's like, yahoo, let's do it, whatever works. So it just depends on where you work and what part of the country. On the bottom, this one is interesting to me, those folks, 75% or more of their contracts go to co-ops. And you have to be thinking, what are they doing in their office? Are they just playing video games all day? Yeah, just use a co-op. Probably not. It's probably a one-person shop, and they probably work for a big organization like a water utility, but there's one procurement person, and they possibly cannot go out to bid for everything. So the only way that they can keep up with the work is to start looking for other contracts to piggyback on. The rest of us fall in somewhere in between. The national average for agencies, government agencies, is between 11 and 19%. That's how much of your contract spend goes toward co-ops. So I just covered contract management, but that was contracts that you put in place. You still need to do it on the cooperative side. Just because the solicitation, that first part of the process has already been done, you still have to manage that contract for the next 2 to 5 years, however long it's going to last. So there's still, you don't get out of the contract management part. So why use it? We know this, limited staff resources. I don't have time to go out to bid for anything, for everything. In fact, as big as I was, the city of San Diego, 9th largest city, a good part of my spend went out to co-ops. There was no reason why I should spend my time or have my team spend their mental time on office supplies. It's been done. and it's been done by everybody. So just let's find the best contract, compare it with our market basket, and let's move on. Let's spend our time and activity on something interesting or innovative or different or big, like 4 police helicopters that we had to go buy, things like that. The second is pricing advantages, and we know this. Even the city of New York and the city of LA, those purchasing officers use co-ops. Look at their spend. They go out for co-ops to leverage additional spend, and obviously a little school district in Kansas or a little town in Texas is going to take advantage of the same leveraging. And then they're already being used. So you can quickly ask, who else is using this contract? Get a list of folks, pick up the phone and call them. How's this working out for you? A little different than when you put in your own bid and RFP, because you are the person that's going to test drive this. And in this case, it's already being test drove. Other key reasons, gap fillers. As a purchasing person, we hate to see a sole source come across our desk because it creates a lot of angst and work for us. Because first of all, they would like, our customer departments would like for us to trust them and to think they really did search the world over, and this really is the only product and the only company that provides this. And then you go to this wonderful site called Google Search, and you type in the words of the product, maybe even the company, and 20 different vendors show up, and you're like, this is the only one, huh? This is the only one. Well, I have a magical system that showed me otherwise. But your fleet director says, look, I really need this type of product. All my mechanics have been trained on it. That's the tools we have. I really need Ford F-150 trucks. We want to stay on that product line. Well, I can't put out a bid for Ford F-150 trucks because now I got GMC, I've got Dodge, I got everybody else fussing. But a gap filler, I could go out and maybe get that Ford F-150 truck through a cooperative contract because it has been solicited. A competition already happened. The other thing, particularly in the IT world, we'll go out to bid on all our IT and peripherals. Well, within 5 days of awarding that contract, something new just got invented. Something new that you could never even dream about. And suddenly your IT staff is saying, can we have that kind of mouse? You know, the one with the laser beams and da-da-da-da-da. Well, I didn't include that mouse because I didn't know it existed. Well, that's a gap filler as well. Maybe one of the co-ops just had a more open-ended contract that you can go to get that particular mouse that IT is saying they need without doing a sole source. The next, job order contracting. It's done for small repair projects. It's where you pre-solicit and have contractors on standby. So you have that leaking roof, and you know it takes 4 to 6 months to have a construction bid go out and award. Well, in 4 to 6 months, particularly in your part of the world with rain, you can't wait that long. This might be an opportunity for you to quickly garner contractors to come on board. Emergencies is a big part of it as well. I was the purchasing agent when we had the 2007 Witch Creek fires. And in the case of our city, I immediately become the emergency logistics chief. So working with police, fire, and all of our public safety and the supporting staff, there was a lot to buy during that time. So I bought a lot of stuff within that first week of the fires on emergency contracts, and a lot of them were through co-ops. Now FEMA does have has some rules and regulations, and so you have to check that out as well. So during the emergency, the actual emergency, and that's kind of nebulous as when that stops, you can use cooperatives for quickly getting stuff. In the long term though, they sometimes have other rules that apply. So you need to research that with you and your attorney and your assigned FEMA person. And then I mentioned the specific vendor selections. So analysis of your co-op. The little roadmap I put in front of you, or each one of you has a copy of. This was created by going out across the nation and asking some seller purchasing agents. So when you want to choose a co-op, do you have like a checklist you use? Do you have a set of questions you ask? How do you go about that process? And they were very helpful, and they sent in their list, and all of those lists were kind of promulgated into this one document. So the first case, you have to ask questions about your agency. Are you allowed to? Does your city attorney or assigned counsel know about cooperative procurement? A lot of them aren't trained in procurement contract law, they're just attorneys. Not that that's a bad thing, but you have to kind of teach them the niche of procurement. In my case at the city, I had a revolving door of assigned attorneys. In fact, if you were 22 and passed the bar exam, you're assigned to procurement. Okay, here's another one I can train. So I would say, okay, here's what school taught you, and now here's real life. Here's what we're gonna do here. So, because there is an interesting perspective. It's not just contract law, it's procurement contract law, and there are nuances. So the second one, now you've decided you wanna go use a co-op. Here are some of the questions you need to ask. How is it solicited? Can you get a copy of all the documents? Can you get a list of other folks using it? Can you call those folks? What is their level of customer service? To me, that's important. Can you get questions answered, or do they give you the runaround? That's a big part of it as well. Oops. Contract review. Now you got the contract in front of you. It's not one size fits all in a cooperative contract. There are some things you may want to negotiate a little bit further with the supplier. So for instance, terms and conditions. You may have to put certain things in for your entity. You may have indemnity clauses you need to change because that co-op is located in the state of Texas. Well, you're in Oregon. You want Oregon laws to apply and not state of Texas laws to apply. They will change it. However, that's an agreement between you and that supplier, and then include the co-op. So there is still a conversation and negotiation to go on. When is it going to be due? That's the first thing I'll ask. A vendor will come in, say a contractor for tractors. They'll come in and say, we've got this great co-op, and if you piggyback on this, you can get all your tractor needs taken care of. And my very first question is, when does that expire? When does that contract expire? Because if it expires in 5 months, you are not helping me. I'm going to piggyback on that unless I have an immediate need and an immediate buy. But if I need a long term, shoot, I got to go do this thing 5 months from now. Forget it. Take your co-op aside. So expiration is very important. Is there rebates? How are the reports provided? And then bake off. And this is what I did with office supply. Instead of going out to bid, I called all of the big office suppliers. And at that time, there were more than there are now because they've been buying each other. But back in the day, this is in the olden days, there was Corporate Express, Office Depot, Office Max, and Staples. So I invited them all in and said, go across the land and find your best contract. It could be a cooperative contract, a state contract, and here's my market basket. I want you to bring me that contract, bring me the pricing, and that's how I'm going to make my decision. And that's called a bake-off. So in a bake-off, you're actually looking at one commodity, which in my case was office supplies, and going out to every co-op out there, what do you got for office supplies? That's what I'm looking for. Or a second bake-off is if you're going on a cooperative and saying, what are all the contracts you have in this specific category? And so you're comparing apples, trying to do an apples to apples comparison. I highly recommend this if the dollar value is high. Don't just go with the first one you see. In the co-ops, including the one in the room, doesn't want me to say that, but I'm a purchasing person right now talking to you, and I would say shop around because some of them offer better language, better pricing, you never know. And so don't just stop at one if it's a common commodity. NCPP I told you about, you can actually go on the website. It stands for National Cooperative Procurement Partners. The reason I put it up here is because everything is free to you. As purchasing folks, you can sign up for a member is free. All the handouts that I gave you, these are stuff that's produced, anything new you can get copies of. And then some of our webinars have been outstanding. And it's not your typical government webinar. It's where we have gone out across the country and we're interviewing like a 60 minutes episode without the gotcha element, key procurement folks on certain topics and saying, how do you handle this? What would you do? What lessons learned? If you look back and wanted to do something different, all of those webinars, even if you miss them, they're all online and you can pull them up and listen to them as well. When they're live, you can also get continuing education credits. So that's a way to get your credit hours. Let's get back to contracts. Gifts. Now we in procurement pretty much know the rules and gifts. Thou shalt not accept a gift. But every agency is a little different. Some agencies will allow you to have a gift up to a certain dollar amount. Maybe $5, maybe $20. Some of them may allow, in my case, my agency allowed us to accept gifts. But then we had to fill out a Form 700 at the end of the year and actually list all the gifts we may have received. And the politicians would have long lists. They were allowed to receive gifts as long as you claim it, you can accept a gift. It's weird. So I just made the rule no gifts, because when I came in as purchasing director, it was November. And you know what that means. Christmas is around the corner and the gifts were rolling in because my predecessor hadn't set up a rule about gifts. And I had a really hard conversation with my team and I said, I really have a problem with this. I didn't grow up in procurement, but just the perception issue. If you have a box of chocolates on the front counter and it's from United Rentals, what if one of the other equipment companies comes in and sees that box that everybody's eating chocolate from? Well, Tammy, you just don't understand. If we take that box and we put it out for everyone to eat, it's really not a gift. Well, yeah, it is. It's just everybody's eating the gift. That was mine. So I had a no gift policy, and if the gifts came in, we immediately either accepted or didn't accept the arrival of the gift, or we just returned it. And it cost some money to get a lot of these gifts, including the wine basket. I wasn't even tempted. The wine basket went back. But gifts are a big no-no, particularly in procurement. So I say, don't just have a no gift policy. That means that Staples office supply button, that was easy. That's a gift if it was given to you. Look in your pins in your desk. I must have 100 pins. If you go in my car, my desk, everywhere around my house, I have 100 pins. Not once do I remember in my life purchasing a pin. So obviously I've stolen hundreds of pins. I'm a felon level pin stealer. But here's the thing in purchasing, and you're thinking, Tammy, you're getting crazy now. This is just getting silly, because now you're getting paranoid. Look at the pin you have in your hand. Where did you steal that one from? Right? I mean, you could get down to that level. But here's the thing, and I know I'm going crazy here, but remember, paranoia, what could go wrong? How does this look? Can I defend my position? So you're sitting there and you are signing a $100,000 travel arrangement with the Marriott. And all of your executives now, for the next 5 years, if they travel, go anywhere, is through this Marriott travel package. And you're signing it with a Holiday Inn pin. There's a perception issue. When you're signing a contract with Office Depot and you've gone through all this angst and then you turn around and go, that was easy. Perception. Why are you hitting the Staples button after an Office Depot do? So I'm just saying, when you go back into your office, look around. If anything, even if you purchased it, but it could look like it's a perception issue, just remove it while you're in this role called procurement to keep it clean. So gifts, we know that, but you also cannot influence the contractor for personal gain. Obviously, they can't go to your house and build a pool in your backyard, but you can't also solicit for family members. So you know that son that's moved back home and he's been living on your couch and he just will not get a job? And now you're working with a security guard company and they mention, hey, we've got some openings coming up. You cannot go to them and say, can you hire my son and get him off my couch? You can go home and tell your son such and such company is hiring. You might want to go put in an application, but you need to stay out of the mix on that. That's part of that as well. And then I have to say it, dating and personal relationships. You can't be dating your vendors. Okay, I'm going to age myself here. But if he looks like Denzel Washington, Antonio Banderas, and Harrison Ford, I will quit my job and then I will accept the dating proposition. Because if he looks like that, yeah, I'm dating him, but I can't do it as purchasing agent. So you just have to be careful about that as well. And it can get a little sticky. So for any of you that are dating, married to someone who works for another company, and that company either does business with your agency or seeks to do business with your agency, that's something you have to be always kind of a little bit cognizant about as well. Not that they're dating you so they can get a contract. They're dating you because they love you. Let me rest assured that. You don't need to go home. Why are you dating me? You don't need to have that conversation. But you just need to be very careful about that in procurement. All right. I want to say it's touchy. So closing out a contract. This needs to be a formal process. We don't just let it die on the vine. We need to, because there's a couple of reasons. One, it is a contract ending process, so it needs to be formal and cut off at the end. But 2 years from now, you can get sued on this contract. Do you have a file that's been closed out that you could defend your agency? So 90 to 120 days is optimum, not 2 weeks, as all our customer departments come to us. Or they come to you, the grant's expiring in another week. Can you hurry up and buy this? We don't have time to do that. So 90 to 120 days. You know that. Do your departments know that? You need to share that with them. Review the specs and scope of work. You're at the end of a 4 or 5 year contract. Does it still work today? Have things changed? They probably have. Technology alone has changed. Go back and look and see if those need to be updated. I would actually meet with the customer department and the vendor, because that vendor has been working on this contract for 5 years. They probably know something. They've got some insight. They may have suggestions. You know what? You guys have contracted this out for 2 days a week cleaning. And really, to do a really good job, if you have the budget, you should do at least these 3 things additionally. They may have some great suggestions for the next contract period. And then, of course, the final invoicing and payments. We are Switzerland Procurement. We represent our agency, but we also represent the vendor community. We have to make sure that they're treated fairly in this process and that they're paid properly, and that our customer departments turn in stuff to get them paid as well. All right, final scenario. You and your partner take a look at this, and can you tell me if anything's wrong with this? There's a graffiti company, and this is a true story. The graffiti company takes care of problems across the interstate freeways. No complaints have been received about this company. Invoices are submitted and paid promptly. Reports from the vendor received each month with all the activities. They give our report of where they painted, what was taken care of. The governor's office has received accolades from the highway patrol on their good work. You and your partner. Anything? Schedule a meeting? Somebody want to schedule a meeting? What are you going to talk about?
How the work is being checked.
Okay, how the work is being checked. Very good. Audit. That's what I'm talking about, audit. This is a real scenario. And in this case, their reports that they had every month, an auditor chose this contract to audit. And they went out to 5 sites where the graffiti was supposed to be painted over. And in one particular site, there was supposed to be a 12-foot high, something long, 20-foot long wall that they painted over in graffiti. It was an empty lot, and there was no wall. Well, that begs the question, was there ever a wall there? And why did we just pay to have a wall painted that's not there? Further audit showed multiple locations where there was nothing that could have possibly contained graffiti. So what were they painting over?
So they weren't directed by the agency, they just went out and randomly covered.
Well, and they had a hotline. They had a 1-800 hotline that people driving up and down the freeway could call in. So this firm would go out and respond to the hotline and do all this painting. This was 3 years into the contract. $2 million this company had to reimburse the state. Now, on the surface, it looks like it's good, right? It looks like all hunky-dory, but that's what contract management is about. Things are bubbling. You just don't know where they're bubbling until all holy heck breaks out through an audit, a newspaper article, something. If someone had been actually managing this and maybe auditing along the way, it would have been caught, corrected quietly. This made the news big time. So the kid had to be canceled, rebid, and now they almost have to audit monthly to make sure everybody's happy and comfortable with this. Yes, ma'am, you had a...
I understand if it's an interstate freeway, which is federal, why?
No, it was a state. It was a state. It was a state highway patrol and the governor. It was through the governor or through his CPO. So it was a state contract. Yeah, so $2 million had to go, well, there was a lawsuit, there was all kind of problems. But see, even on the, now you're thinking of your own contracts right now. What could be bubbling? What could be happening? But that's what I mean. Contract management is so important. So let me test you. All right, you got this. Approximately, I just told you this, how many days before a contract expires should you start planning? Yes, yes. Changes can easily be made to the specifications or scope of work during the contract term. True or false? Depends. It depends. It's mainly false, but it depends. But it has to be negotiated. You can't just suddenly tell the supplier, okay, we've made you deliver at one location, now we're adding 20 more. No, they need to be paid extra for the 20 more locations. Who sets the agenda? Who's in control of that meeting? Yeah. Yes, if anything, you learned that today. You are in control. When monitoring a contract for fiscal, remember there's 3 areas. There's administrative, there's fiscal oversight, and then there's service oversight. What is an example of one part you should review if you're looking at fiscal oversight?
Contract to the invoice.
Yes, the invoice. Match up invoices to pricing. That's the easiest one. If there's a problem with a vendor's performance, do you have a right to cancel the contract? Yes, you do. It's probably in your terms and conditions or somewhere in contract terms, but yes, you do. Can a contract be extended beyond the expiration date? Not the I award in 4 option years. I mean expiration date. You are procurement. It depends. And I used to be in your chair. It depends. I would say when you're working with your customer department, you tell them no, never, ever pass the expiration, but leave that in your back pocket that it depends. But you know you're going to document the heck out of it if you go beyond. Maybe it's a 3-month extension or something because we have to do something. Let me tell you my final story. Qualcomm Stadium is the major football stadium in San Diego. You know, where the Chargers used to play. And the Padres used to play till they got Petco Park. San Diego Aztecs still play there. But this stadium is owned and operated by the city of San Diego. In fact, the parking lot, you may not know this, is the largest municipally owned parking lot west of the Mississippi. It's where when we had the fires, everyone was told to evacuate to Qualcomm Stadium. So at this particular stadium, we had a brand new stadium manager, Eric, and he was awesome. Young guy, very, very, in fact, he's a big deal now in the Meadowlands. He moved on. So he had an issue, and he came to me and said, Tammy, security at the stadium. The Chargers team hires their own security, and we have our security for the rest of the stadium. So they guard the players, the locker room, all of that, and then we have security for the rest. Now, up to this time, these 2 security teams have worked for the last 5 years, but I just realized, I'm brand new, but I just realized this contract is going to expire in the next month or so, and we're required to rebid. I really need a big favor from you. I'm brand new. I don't know the operation. I can't have a new security company come in. And I said, look, Eric, this is a lot of money. I can't just do a sole source on a security for a major Qualcomm Stadium. He said, here's the situation. On any given Sunday, on football Sunday, we have between 20 and 25 arrests for public intoxication and fighting. That's typical. There's a particular Sunday, though, when another team comes into town, and the numbers jump to 300 people get arrested. Guess that team? The Raiders, the Oakland Raiders. And he said, in exactly 4 weeks, the Oakland Raiders are coming into town, and I need to be prepared. Because here's what happens. The security from the Chargers goes up to a certain point in the stadium, and then my security takes over. If anything happens with a new security team coming in, not knowing the lines, the gaps, the back corners of the stadium, we may have an issue. In fact, somebody might get hurt very badly. And I said, since we can justify this is a health and human services safety issue, I will do a term of 1 year extension. But in the meantime, you guys get your act together and we're going to get a bid out on the street. Well, after I put that sole source in place, Eric left the city about 3 months later. I left about 6 months later. 2 years go by. I no longer work for the city of San Diego, and I get a call from the city attorney at home. Tammy, we have a situation. We have just found out that this security firm that you put in a sole source memo is still working 3 years later. Nobody managed the contract. Nobody looked at the contract. Nobody took over Eric's files. Apparently nobody looked in my files or the main system. But I said, now I have a sole source memo. And he said, no, you're covered. You're okay. And you left. But what we need you to do is to come and testify, because now the other security firms are suing the city because this opportunity, which is a lucrative one, wasn't offered to them. And I said, I don't want to come in. I don't work for you guys anymore. And it didn't happen on my watch. If it happened wrong on my watch, obviously I'm responsible, but it didn't. Well, then he got a little prickly, as attorneys can get. And he said, well, we could subpoena you to come in. And I said, and yes, you could. And here's a warning to all of you. If God puts red hair on somebody's head, you don't want to shake them too much. We only make up 2% of the population for good reason. He needed to contain us. So then I got prickly back. And I said, that's right. I want you to subpoena me in. Bring me in to testify. You're going to have a hostile witness, because I might offer up ideas of other contracts that the mayor's office might have put in place. I could just throw things out willy-nilly. I never heard from him again. So I will tell you, if you think you're working this job today, later on when you retire, leave, win the lottery, you don't have to worry about it. Oh, yes, you do. Your signature, you're part of any contract process. You are married for life. So that's why you want to do good contract management. Again, I apologize for being late, and thank you for your patience today. You own the press. Send it over. You can, yeah, they got it. You can have the presentation.
So with your permission, I'll share your
Yeah,
presentation.
you guys can have this presentation. Help yourself.
Afterward, if you need to go.